Hey, Rach, let's be real. Moving sucks. Packing double sucks. And don't even get me started on the emotional unraveling that happens when I open a junk drawer and find a single birthday candle circa 2009.
Yeah, but don't you know about STG Concierge Moving and Organizing? They're a badass all-female team that packs, unpacks, and organizes your life so you don't spiral into a clutter-induced breakdown.
Wait, what? You mean to tell me these women don't just show up with bubble wrap? They show up with a plan? They'll wrestle my chaos into submission, label my life, and unpack my kitchen faster than I can say, "Where's the damn coffee maker?"
Yes, I am. Whether you're downsizing, upsizing, packing up your parents' home, or just drowning in your own disorganized drama, STG Concierge Moving and Organizing gets it done. They do it with style, with sanity, and your personal favorite, without judgment. Because let's face it, Dr. Boca, you're not lazy. You're just over it.
Oh my God, I so am. So what I'm hearing you say is that I need to get my head out of my drawers and go to www.stgconcierge.com, where I'll be one click away from polishing my unpolished clutter.
Yup, it's unpolishedly tested and unpolishedly approved.
What do you get when the audacious and the therapist collide? A crash course in unpolished therapy. Rachel Silver-Cohen and Dr. Boca aren't afraid to spin out of control, tackling all the tough talk. Their weekly sesh meets at the corner of Audacity and Advice, where their wheels and yours get turned upside down.
Hello, Dr. Boca.
Hello, Rach. How are you?
I'm good. You look nice and toasty over there.
I was thinking the same thing. I don't know about you, but it has been freezing in Boca. Freezing.
Well, you do know about me because I am around the corner from you. So it's cold, but I have to tell you, and I don't want to come out of the gate so fast and furious, like beating you up about it, but like everyone needs to slow their roll with like Panic at the Disco because it's so cold.
Oh, totally agree. I mean, the fact that we got a newsletter and in the newsletter, it said, if you go outside, make sure that you have layers on and do not have any skin exposed because you might have frostbite. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's 30 degrees. Okay, it's cold, not going to lie, but like 30 degrees. We're all from New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Canada, Chicago. We know cold. This, not so cold.
I have to tell you that, and I'm so happy we're on the same page with that. And to the audience out there, people who are watching, people who are listening, good afternoon, good morning, hello from the corner of Audacity and Advice. I'm Rachel Silver-Cohen with the one and only DB, Dr. Boca. We are batting down the hatches, right? That was the message I got from my community.
Yes.
Like, I mean, we're not exactly having,
a blizzard,
Armageddon, right? And I just feel like people can't, it's like, be careful what you wish for. It may come true. It's so hot that people are freaking out in the summertime and oh my God, and they're in the concrete jungle or they're in the tundra down here and their hair is for, and now we finally, we can take out our winter clothes that we didn't want to get rid of, all of us who are original Northerners, right? It's the greatest thing ever. It's not exactly -7. Everyone, no pun intended, but chill the fuck out, right?
Right. Like I'm sitting here, I have my hat on because I've been
Clearly.
working, right? I've been working all day. And so I wanted to stay warm. I had my space heater on because I don't think that like the office buildings get the memo, right? To, the air conditioning's at 100 below on a good day. So during a cold front, we're like, maybe at 50 below, but we're still freezing. So I had my space heater on. People were walking. They're like, oh, it's so toasty. And I was like, of course, I'm going to make this great. But I have the hat on. I do love pulling out my high boots. And yeah, like I love it. But the problem is like I work in the morning and I go till, the afternoon, late afternoon. And it's hot when I leave sometimes. And I'm like, wait, it lasted like a whole hot second, right? But it still is nice to take out the hat and everything. And when I got that newsletter, I was like, it's going to be 30 degrees at 2 a.m. for like, I don't know, 30 minutes, right? You had to write an entire instructional panel just on that. It was mind blowing to me.
It's just pandemonium. And
Yes.
look, unpolished pandemonium. I guess if you can't beat them, join them. But
Sure.
I'm being unpolishedly positive about it because it's
Yes.
such a beautiful, refreshing change of
Oh,
pace.
yes.
And I welcome it. I'll tell you, in all the years I've been in Florida, which is a lot, decades now, I don't think that I've ever really used heat. I love bundling up and I love pulling out the faux fur and the
Yep.
hats and all my ski stuff that I never really get to use. And it's just fun because it's a change. However, I will tell you this past week or so, um, I I did get all those memos too that, oh my God, we're having I think they were calling it not a blizzard, but like a flizzard, if that's even a word,
Oh,
like
I
a
haven't even.
flurry, because it was maybe gonna snow, maybe not, or maybe they were just looking to hype people up. And I don't know, maybe I'm making up that word, but it was like a flizzard. And I
Works
said,
for
well,
me.
what I do I even have heat? Anyway, to make a stupid story short, I started playing around with the thermostat, and lo and behold, the heat went on. And I'm not making this up. This is not hyperbole. It started smelling. There was
Oh,
like that
yeah.
smell from the heat when I've never even used it. The
Sure.
next thing I know, the fire alarm,
No.
I swear to God, the fire alarm started going off.
No,
And
just
I
from
was
the
like,
smell?
yep, and it was pretty pungent. I'll be honest. I was like,
Wow.
is something burning? I mean, I pressed one button and it smelled like fire. So
Oh
whether
my.
that's a electrical issue with where I live or not, I don't know. It was above my pay grade. I turned the heat off immediately because I was
You were
not
scared.
screwing around. But then it launched into, and it doesn't matter what temperature is. We've all had this issue before with the smoke alarm where that damn chirping thing is
Oh,
going off. I
yes.
had to search for which smoke detector it was, which that takes a master's degree to try to, I mean,
Mhm.
there's only 4 or 5 of them, and you just it's like you're looking around.
It's like whack-a-mole. It's like, wait. It's
Exactly.
like, wait, oh, that one. No, and you hit it
Yes,
and it's like,
and I'm like, wait,
yeah.
and then you're like questioning your own sanity that
Yep.
you're like, okay, I think it's this one, but now I'm
Uh-huh.
gonna wait for it again, and then you think you know the timing of it, but you really don't. Anyway, I was able to narrow it down, and then
Good.
I found myself I had to step on a chair to a
Mhm.
desk, and I had to have my kid kind of spot me on it
Mhm.
to make sure that that wasn't going to turn into a calamity. And then I kind of had to break the smoke alarm to get that thing to shut the hell up.
Yeah, you had to
Because
get the
that had
battery
to
out.
do
You have to get
with
the
the
battery out of it. You take the whole thing off, the battery hangs, and then I leave it hanging forever. But that, I mean, kudos for you that you found it.
Yep.
Kudos for you that you got it out. For me, I have those like, I don't know, 20-foot ceilings. They're not. And this is why I'm not an interior designer, because to me, they're like 50 feet ceilings.
Like, how do people get up that high?
Right. Like, you are expecting me, first of all, to have a ladder that high, right? And then you expect me to climb that?
No way.
Right? No.
I'm actually shivering just thinking about how nervous I would be if little you had to climb up, your high ceilings like that. No way.
No, I call somebody, but I'm like at 2:00 in the morning when it's going off, because it, like, for you, it was triggered by the heat, but
Yeah, but
usually
it only goes off in the middle of the night.
in the middle of the night
I know.
scares the crap out of you, right? And then I don't know if you're like this, Rachel, but then I get into bed and I'm like, okay, it's going to chirp all night. I've accepted it's going to chirp all night. But what if tonight is the night that there's actually a fire?
God forbid.
God forbid.
God forbid.
But like, really.
And then you're like sleeping with one eye open, or right when you start to almost, in our unpolishedness, it's almost like most normal people, right? I know we're not allowed to use the word normal, but most polished people, they count sheep, they put on noise machines, they listen to calm music. In our unpolished brains, when that happens and that chirp is like, no matter what you do, you just have to succumb to it. You almost have to like find some type of way to wrap your head around the chirp to calm yourself to the chirp. Like
habituate.
I count how many seconds it is, and then it's like I'm going to beat the chirp, and then you do fall asleep, but then the chirp wakes you up again. Or right? Am I crazy? Or
I mean, you're
yes
not
or no?
crazy. You're not crazy. However, I am a really good sleeper, especially like, with progesterone. I am a great sleeper, so I can tune it out. But I can imagine that if you're a light sleeper, you have to kind of figure out a way. Like I just habituate to it. Like I'm pretty good at habituating to noises and then they just don't bother me. But it is, I'm terrible when a noise like that wakes me up from a dead sleep. And then I have that's unsettling to me. But I eventually go back to bed and I sit there and I'm maybe the way that I habituate is I'm cursing at it. Right. And I just keep cursing and cursing. And then eventually it's like crying it out. And I eventually just fall asleep cursing at it. But I'm glad that it didn't happen to you at 2:00 in the morning. But it is amazing that we don't use our heat. And when you turn it on, it's like when my daughter comes to blow dry her hair, it's like something has caught on fire. It may not have flames.
That was the smell. And it kind of threw me for a loop because again, I was even a little ambivalent about, am I buying into this whole nonsense with how cold it's going to be? We're not in Alaska, right? We're not in the South Pole. And again, as I said, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but it's like, get your jacket out that you've been wanting to wear for the last 9 months. And why do you have to bitch about it? I will tell you though, and I'm going to play a little game to see if we can get through one episode where somehow menopause doesn't come up. But you brought up progesterone. So I'm just going to tell you one of the things that I'm actually impressed with myself, and maybe this is a positive perk, if you will, about menopause, is that as chilly as it's been, my body has surprised me with not being nearly as cold as I thought I would be. And I think it's because the way that my body regulates, I run so much hotter than I used to. I literally, and my old school friends, they can attest to this. One of the reasons that the North ran me out of the North and I moved to Florida was because I would just shake for months and I absolutely couldn't stomach how cold it was. And either I've matured or just packed on a few menopause pounds and I'm just not as cold as I used to be.
Interesting. Because I was sitting outside for a little bit and I was to the core shivering.
Really?
And it was late afternoon after work. So it wasn't freezing. I mean, it was definitely cold in the morning. So I don't know. I would assume more people are typical to me, given that everybody kind of comes out of the cold when they get older. But I don't know, maybe our audience could tell us what their experience was like. But I was chilly. And it didn't take a lot to make me chilly.
Well, sometimes I feel like people who sit and talk about the weather, come on.
We've become them.
We are them. Okay.
We are them.
I don't like those people. So I don't know what that says about how I like myself or not. But on the topic though, and we can move on. But I just think in my, I've decided now I'm like weather girl, but it's the wind. When there's no wind and the sun is out and it's a beautiful, crisp sky, to me, and you're prepared.
Right.
If you're dressed appropriately, what could be better? When the wind starts whipping, then for me, all bets are off. And put a fork in me, I'm done. No matter how much menopause is in me and no matter how hot my body's running, when the wind is on your face and it's dripping out of your nose and your lips are chapped and you just feel like you're being blown over.
Peace
out.
To
me, it's
brutal. It's brutal. Right. Brutal. But going back to like my body running hot, right? I'm totally going to do like a 180 here. Right.
Okay,
but
bring it.
I don't know about your friends, but I have had friends over the last several months who are huge readers. And they are all reading these books that are like bordering on, rated X, double X, triple X, quadruple X. I mean, so much so that they cannot put these books down. Really? And I'm not a big reader because I don't have time to read, which is shame on me. That's terrible. But I'm not a big reader. I'm usually reading for work if I am reading. But apparently, and you may know more about this than I do, but those same women who are reading said books have insisted that I watch some show called Heated Rivalry, I think. I don't know if you know anything about this, but apparently they're like, this is the book that has come to life with real abs. So I don't know if our listeners know anything about this. I have not started watching it yet because I'm still into Tell Me Lies, and we can talk
Okay.
about that because
Ugh.
that one as a psychologist is
Yes.
just wow. But do you know anything about this heated rivalry?
I do.
Oh.
So first of all, I love a good play on words. So thank you for bringing us out of the cold, and now we are just in the sweatbox that is heated rivalry. And the irony of that, though, too, is that, and we won't give away the details of the show, although this is one thing that I don't live under a rock, and I am up to speed on it. So,
Wait, are you suggesting I live under a rock,
yeah,
Rach?
yes, I am, because
Okay.
you're my
I'll buy
neighbor.
into that.
And, well,
At
you're
least
my
under a
neighbor.
hat. I
Under
live under-
hat, good one. But
Thank you.
good job,
Thank you.
DB. Yeah.
Thank you.
So the show in and of itself, though, and to be fair, I had heard about it. Obviously, I'm a big pop culture junkie, and I do like keeping up. I have been reading more than I had fairly recently. So that's a topic for another day. I have some good books that aren't really smutty that we can dive into another time. Maybe we'll do like an Unpolished book club, and we'll do it, like for our YouTube audience. I don't know.
Wait, does that mean I have to read the book?
Yeah, kind of, or at least like a cliff note or something.
Cliff
Or
note,
well,
okay.
you're the queen of ChatGPT.
I could
Knowing you could
ChatGPT it.
probably just ChatGPT it and then show up for the podcast,
Okay.
and you're
Okay.
prepared. So
Okay.
anyway, I digress. So heated rivalry, yes, we do not need to wear our winter coats. We do not need to wear our beanies and our scarves and our cashmere and so on and so forth, because it is getting a lot of hot traction. And the reason it's getting all the publicity is because the plot of the show is about two hockey players. It's a ice hockey themed show. And it's about or even more than two, but the two main characters are two closeted gay guys. And
Oh.
they're, athletes and handsome, and they have this heated rivalry, if you will, on the ice. But the male camaraderie from the sportsmanship and the teamwork and the sport industry in and of itself with these professional athletes, I guess, points to a real life issue that I suppose is not make believe. And the show has really helped bring light, if you will, to professional athletes who have not felt comfortable. Even in a world in 2026, you would think that oh, what do you do? Like, you're out and great, and let's move on and, pass the salt. But obviously that's not the case. And this show has really helped both avenues. It's helped the athletes say, wow, there's a audience for this, and the audience has been so welcoming. And maybe too, you throw in some great sexy scenes, and that'll help anyone kind of skew the lines or soften their edges towards something that potentially could be a little bit of a taboo topic. And yes, it's getting a lot of traction because it is very steamy. Now you have to and I don't mean this in any derogatory way, but you kind of have to be into male gay porn, because that's kind of what people are liking it to, that it's very soft pornish. The guys are hot, don't get me wrong, but I can see how it could be a little controversial.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, I know nothing about it. I just got pictures of these guys sent to me, and I was like, oh, okay. And she's like, oh, it's a show now. And I was like, huh. And she was like, which one do you like? And there were like 4 boxes, and I was supposed to pick out of those 4 boxes. And I knew nothing about, I still don't know, I mean, other than what you've done a beautiful synopsis of it. And now it sounds a little bit deeper than just, soft porn. So I'm going to check it out, and I hope our listeners do too. Not that we're getting any kickback for promoting it, but if it is.
And if you want, just for the sake of the non-therapy therapy, I want to mention it to you from the perspective of just the emotional empathy piece, and how people have been reacting to it, other than just some
porn,
potential soft porn. Okay. Because and I'm the first one to admit, when some of my friends told me about it and I turned it on, I kind of was like, it's not doing it for me. And I don't think I really want to dive in. And then in all honesty, I put it down, and then I went back to it because all the articles and all of the chatter was that there's a real story behind and underneath,
Right.
if you will,
Mm-hmm.
just what's going on from the sexual standpoint, and it chronicles these two men through not weeks, not seasons, but years and years and years
Mm-hmm.
of a
Yeah.
real relationship that was closeted, and the shame, I suppose, from not being able to share who they really were. And I just thought, from your perspective, the wisdom that maybe you can provide our listeners and the viewers for that matter. Again, we're protecting Dr. Boca's license. It's not real therapy, entertainment value here, and we love to just ditch the couch and grab the mics. But Dr. Boca, because we do like popular culture, and
Sure.
this is definitely an unpolished popular culture topic, what are your thoughts on what you see or read or hear in your psychology world relative to a topic like this?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a powerful topic. I think that in today's day and age, we're kind of like, really, it's still happening, but it really is still happening, particularly in religious families. It's happening. There's a lot of shame coming out in those environments, are very, very traumatic. And also in a sport or the Army, Navy, any group activity of same gender,
Mhm.
you form a camaraderie. And when the vast majority of those individuals are heterosexual and they find out that there's someone who isn't, there's now a threat to the relationship of that male bonding, because now they start to say, oh, have you been like, are you into me? Like, are you going to try to, change me? I mean, very
Mhm.
old ways of thinking about it, but it's a it's still present in those deep-rooted brotherhoods, for lack of a better word. So these people who struggle with this are holding on to, I'm going to lose this brotherhood, or I'm going to lose this sisterhood, or I'm going to lose this sport, or whatever it is,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
I'm going to lose my church, or I'm going to lose my, religious support and community. That's a really scary thing. So a lot of them do try to hide it and stay closeted for a reason. And
Mhm.
again, this isn't, I don't think this is happening in all of the very um, socially accepted environments, right? But it is happening on some of the more peripheral, like, really, this is what we are, like the very broman, and like very this,
Mhm.
I don't even think broman is a word, but you know what I'm trying to say, like the ones where it's like very, I'm going to stereotype it, very like testosterone driven,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, and not to mention it in this case in particular, this is ice hockey. I mean,
right,
I can't think of a sport off the top of my head that is any more, I am man, hear me
right.
roar, and the aggression and the beating each other up, and the fights on the ice. That's even part of the
Mhm.
dynamic of the sport in and of itself,
Sure,
right?
sure. Right,
So
and so, and then
definitely.
imagine, right, and imagine it, not that everybody's flaunting around their sexuality, and I think that it's important for everybody to understand that, just like a heterosexual doesn't flaunt around their heterosexuality and, are defined by that, so too, a homosexual, isn't either, right? And we make that, interpretation that like, "Oh, if they're gay, they're going to, um, hit on me, or they're going to violate my space." Are you violating their space? No. Right? So, that's the threat to the team group think about it, and they don't
Mhm.
want that to get ruined.
Mm.
But think about it the other way, like what's good for the goose is good for the gander. You're not doing that to you're not throwing around your sexuality on everybody. That's something that you do in the, whether it's in the privacy of your home or when you're at the bar drunk and you're making out with the woman. What's the difference if they're making out with a man? The problem is that you're personalizing it and saying, well, he's going to make out with me and I'm afraid by that. So
Mm.
it more has to do with our own insecurities and our own issues with it than it really has to do with anything else. But when you're in a team and there's a lot of them, or the Army, Navy, Marines, and any like group thing like that, um, that brotherhood and that unit is so tight that you don't want to be the cause or the threat to that
Mm.
unit. and but a lot of them are thinking the same thing that are in that unit. So now you're the outlier. So it's like any minority group in any other situation experiences the same thing. It's like, let's shame you, but really it's our feelings. We don't understand that, or we don't like that. But then when you put it in the masses, we all can band together and we're a stronger unit. We have more confidence to say, no, go away. You go do that in the privacy of someplace else.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I do empathize deeply. I mean, I deeply empathize for all the minorities in any group that has to deal with a majority, right?
Yeah.
It's very hard. It's
Yeah.
really, really hard. And there's a lot of shame associated with it. And, sex in general has carried a lot of shame over the course of centuries.
Okay.
And so it's a shameful topic, or it used to be a shameful topic. Now a lot of people I'm going to secularize it for lack of a better word. I don't think that's the appropriate word, but they secularize it now and it's commonplace. We talk about sex all the time. Now we have books that are about sex. Remember how taboo that was at one point? And in some places it is still taboo. So, some people are more open to it, and it's like you said, pass the salt. And then there are other people that have come from upbringings where it's still shame laden, right? And then there's also the people that they themselves are struggling with possibly being attracted to the same gender or both genders or whatever the case may be. And maybe it's tapping on their conflict inside.
Right.
And so a lot of times we reject and project our feelings about ourselves onto other people, and they put it in front of our face. And so again, I haven't seen the show. I'm not speaking about the show, but I'm interested because I do have that the curiosity and the empathy to understand both sides.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And I think that will help the listeners and our viewers now also. But for sure, check it out. I think it's HBO Max. It's getting a lot of fanfare. The two leads in the show, who essentially were not even remotely on anyone's radar in any local, I don't think it's a local thing. And now they have become breakout stars practically overnight. So good for them. And
that's amazing. And sending a big message out there.
A huge message.
Yeah.
And by the way, I have no idea what their sexual orientation is in real life. I mean, no idea.
I've heard they're
like afraid to ask.
Well, I heard that like the director or the producer, one of them was not willing to answer that because it just doesn't matter.
But we're human beings, and you kind of want to know.
They're just not
just great if they're straight as an arrow. What I will tell you that I think is remarkable, forget the sexual orientation, but one of the leads, and I'm not giving anything away, you're going to know in the first 30 seconds of the show when you do watch it, Dr. Boca, but one of the characters is Russian. And he's remarkable. What I was blown away about when I saw him doing all this press junket and was on a press tour about the show is that he is as American as apple pie. And not only did he learn Russian for the part, but his accent in speaking English as a Russian character is phenomenal, that you would never know. So that's just sort of like a nerdy little tip I'm just kind of throwing out there.
Yeah, but it speaks to the talent.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool and good for them. Kudos for them. They really have skyrocketed. And the show, like I said, it's hot and steamy if you're into male gay porn, and not or it's really sharing an underlying message that I think is really important. So you'll check it out. You'll let me know. You'll let our audience know.
Yes, we'll have to all come back and meet at the corner of Audacity and advice and speak about it.
We'll have to take our cold winter gear off and we'll have a little heated rivalry about what we think about the show.
Yeah, and I've got to imagine, like you said, while you're watching it, people are stripping off all of their layers, also metaphorically and literally. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to watching that. But I have to get
sorry to interrupt you.
Okay.
And speaking of just other shows too, I know you wanted to touch on Tell Me Lies. I just wanted to quickly kind of do a little shout out. I'm so sad that Catherine O'Hara passed away recently. I mean,
So,
Moira Rose, are you
oh,
kidding me?
Moira. Oh,
Schitt's
I didn't
Creek
even realize that's
is
who it
like
was.
the
Yeah.
greatest, and talk about just kind of a full circle moment. Just when I watched Schitt's Creek, which this is going
Mm-hmm.
back years ago, and I'm staying with the popular culture theme here, but talk about celebrating being gay, right?
Mm-hmm.
David, who was
Mm-hmm.
Moira Rose's son,
Done.
right? Dan Levy. I mean, the ew, David. Remember when Alexis, the sister, it just the whole thing is a full circle moment because it reminds me of, you know, how Parker Posey on White Lotus is like, Piper, no, you know, that whole thing. You're
Mm-hmm.
looking at me like, yes, but you're saying
I
no.
know, I know who
But
you're talking
so
about, and I know
anyway,
the
okay.
show, but I
All right.
haven't seen it
But
yet.
well, I'm only saying that because Catherine O'Hara, with her accent and
She was
her
amazing.
talk about becoming one with the character that is so unique, she
Mm-hmm.
really was such a star and so lovable. And her role on Schitt's Creek and celebrating the
Mm-hmm.
authenticity of who you are and loving
Yes.
someone without any condition, that being Dan Levy, her son
Right.
David. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
two things to that. One, how great that we have a show like Schitt's Creek and
Mhm.
now Heated Rivalry and many, many, many
Many,
others,
many.
right? Including even as far as I've gotten in Tell Me Lies, where there's a
Oh
situation
yeah.
going on, right?
Yes,
Uh-huh.
thank you.
I don't want to ruin that either.
Right.
So, but again, like so great that we have broken through so much, which is why we think like, please, you know, this is like past the salt, right? We
Mhm.
think it's so common and it's just so acceptable, but it's so not. And the fact that we can have shows talking about it and giving us the perspective of what it looks like to have the unconditional love, what it looks like to
Mhm.
have to hide, what it looks like to, you know, keep it secret, right? So it's an interesting times because, you know, 30 years ago you weren't seeing any of this on TV. So on the one hand the evolution's been great, on the other hand we still have a little ways to go.
Mhm.
So what
Yeah.
else was she in? Because I only
Oh
know her
my
from
god.
Schitt's Creek.
Okay, so Beetlejuice,
Yeah, keep
Home
going.
Alone.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, Home
Who was
Alone.
she? The mom?
She was the mom who left
Oh.
Macaulay Culkin at home, not once, but twice. Are you kidding me?
But I don't have facial recognition. So to
Oh,
me,
come on. Yes,
right,
you
like,
do. When it comes to like a star like that. Okay, so Home Alone 2,
okay,
Beetlejuice, Schitt's Creek,
right.
most recent and a lot in between. Oh, Best in Show with Eugene
Yeah, I
Levy.
never
I mean, the
saw
two of
that.
them were Canadian colleagues, but also, of course, their friendship over the years. And they were just absolutely beyond brilliant together. That deadpan humor and all the
Yes.
sarcasm.
So
Best in
wait,
Show was one of my favorite movies ever.
so it's funny that you say that because now it's all coming
Okay,
together
good,
because
good.
I
Come
was
on, Dr.
on,
Boca. Come on,
thank you.
catch up.
While I was on Netflix or Hulu or one of
Yeah.
them today, I saw that Best of Show showed up in like the like trending or whatever it is. And I was like, oh, everybody always said that was such a good movie. I've never seen it, but now I understand why it showed up now relative to I haven't seen it since like the 19 or 2000s or 1990s or
Yeah.
whenever it came out. So now you just connected all those dots for me. So thank
Well,
you.
when you're home bundled and you're not busy, but because of the weather, if you're kind of hunkering down, definitely put it on the list because
Yes.
it's a funny movie and it's so sarcastic and unpolishedly brilliant and perfect, and it's one for the record books. But you had started to say something about Tell Me Lies, and since it kind of just feels
Oh,
like we're in like this TV little junket right
yeah.
now, talk
So,
about a
yeah,
psychological and someone who needs to be on your couch or the couch of a
someone.
someone who is credentialed, because the show is absolutely giving me complete nervous energy, and I'm paranoid. So do you want to share with the audience
I
what the
mean,
show is, what the hype is, why
so
everyone's talking about it?
yeah, so it's interesting. Talk about coming full circle again. I started watching it when it first came out. I mean, and it's spanning a pretty wide, I don't know how many years, but it wasn't just last year that it came out. It came out several years ago,
Okay.
season 1 and season 2. I don't know, but it's been a while since I've watched it. I didn't even know a second season was coming. And then I watched the second season, and then there
Okay.
was a gap between the second season and the third season.
Remind the listeners, though, and the viewers, the name of the show,
Yep.
where they
So,
watch it,
yep.
and
So
take
it's
us from the beginning.
okay. So it's called Tell Me Lies, and it's on Hulu.
Okay.
Okay. That's at least how I watch it. I assume that's
Mhm,
how it is.
mhm.
So it was definitely a okay show when I first started watching it. It is based in around college, so it's college age kids.
Mhm.
And which is always relatable to everybody because we think back to our days in college, right? And there's a main character, his name is Steven, and he is a extremely psychologically complex individual. Okay. And the first season, you're not sure really what to make of him,
Okay.
right? You start to see some of his behaviors kind of surface,
Mhm.
but yeah, you don't really know. He has a girlfriend that they meet right at the beginning of college, and it is an intense relationship. And so, full circle, it's soft porn season 1. Okay. Like season 1 is soft porn. And it leads into season 2. And the sex scenes are very hot and steamy, and I'm like, wow, good for these college students. Like, I don't
Mhm,
remember
mhm.
having sex like that when I was in college. Like, congratulations to them.
Right.
However, it comes at a huge cost. Okay.
Okay.
They have a group of friends, and the deceit and the lies that take place are a whole nother storyline on top of the relationship between Stephen and his girlfriend, and the dynamic.
Lucy. Her name is
Lucy, thank
Lucy.
you. There's
Okay.
a dynamic between those, and it's a dynamic that we see often with I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but I don't think it's going to take a rocket scientist
Okay.
to when they get to know Steven, be able
Okay.
to diagnose him. Um,
Okay.
and have you seen it at all? Like, do you want to like throw in your 2 cents about what you
Yeah.
think the diagnosis
Well,
would be?
well, in my unpolished, non-professional, non-therapist opinion, after I've gotten through like the panic of just my
Mhm.
nervous system, really, and I'm not really joking around. I kind of mean this
Yes.
seriously, Dr. Boca. My nervous system was
Yes.
under attack
Yes.
watching the show, almost to the point that I said, yeah, and again, I'm glad you said it's about college kids. Like, as a 53 plus year old woman, like, is this even like, is it normal that our contemporaries are watching a show like this that is so toxic? The
Mhm.
web of deceit and lies, tell me lies, and
Mhm.
then tell me some more lies, and then tell
And
me more
more.
lies to cover up the lies. And the web is just so complicated. And there's like,
Mhm.
they all have some serious skin in the game, and
Yep.
or you know, a lot of skin, no pun intended, with all of like the sexiness, which that's fun to watch. But
Right.
to your point, I'm going to loosely diagnose all of them with like sociopathic, narcissistic, deep-rooted family trauma,
Mhm.
attachment issues, you name it, keep going. And
Yep.
should I be turning it off because I am unregulated watching this show? Please help me. Don't tell me lies. Tell me something good.
So look, the truth is we should never be watching anything that's going to dysregulate us to to that level.
Unpolished point. Yep.
Right. Okay. But from a it's fascinating to watch if you have never been around somebody who carries all of those
Okay.
attachment wounds and all of those diagnoses, right? It is fascinating, and to see where it comes from and to see then how that preys on
Mm-hmm.
other individuals and specific individuals, because there
Mm.
are some individuals in the show who see it and can handle it,
Okay.
push back,
Okay.
yet are still trapped in it because that sociopathy and that narcissism is just um so manipulative, and
Okay.
just like it's like claws around you. No matter, just when you think that you've beaten this, it comes out someplace else.
So I want to ask you a question. And I always say, if I have the question, maybe the listeners and the viewers have the question too. When you just said some of the characters are I don't know, I might be paraphrasing what you said, but are
Mhm.
strong enough to push back. The first thing that I thought of, and I'm wondering if our listeners would agree with, the only person that I can think of in the show that is strong enough to handle it, but yet is still sucked into the trap, I would say, and tell me if I'm right, would it be Diana?
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
Yes. And
okay.
actually, um, so Wrigley's getting better at it in season
Okay.
3, and
Okay.
Evan
Oh,
checkmated him for a hot second.
to remind me, and to the listeners out there, if you haven't caught up on season 3 episode, I think it's now 4, then this is a spoiler alert. Watch and then come back. But explain to me and to the audience, Dr. Boca, how did Evan checkmate him? Remind
So
me.
it might be just a check,
Oh,
but it's
okay.
like, because I haven't seen more, right? I've
Okay.
only seen
Okay.
where it is. But there was a scene in there where Steven came to Evan and had something over Evan.
Okay.
Okay. He had something over Evan that could destroy somebody else's life.
Okay.
And he came and felt like, oh, I'm going to use that to get my sister's tuition paid for at
R-
her private school
Okay. I
because
remember.
she lost her tuition.
Oh, is that why he paid the tuition? To keep it,
Mhm.
to keep it. Oh, I didn't, I forgot.
And at
Okay,
the
that was,
end of that conversation, he
uh-huh.
said, we're good, meaning
Um,
you can't now come back and
right.
use that information against me.
I see. I
Okay.
see. Okay.
Now, I'm sure it's going to be used against him, as we saw in like the opening scene, and, and things will happen. But in that moment, he played the game and he
Mm,
didn't, he said, give me the key to my apartment.
mm.
Right. Like, and he just kind of set a boundary, and that was it. Even Diana, who stood up and was like, checkmate, right? It wasn't
Weren't you
checkmate.
rooting for her in that
Oh
one
my,
episode where you
yes.
thought that she was this, soft
Yep.
like not manipulator, but the manipulee, if you will, of
Right.
Steven's disgusting antics. And
Hmm.
then we as the audience are like, oh my God,
Yep.
go Diana. Go ahead.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
And then he proceeded to put her in a position also. So it's just this, and I hate to use this phrase, it's just a mind fuck, right? Like, I don't,
What is the dance though about? Like, can you explain? And obviously, this could be a whole podcast theme in and of itself about the dynamics between what would attract two people that have had such trauma to be. It's like it's polarizing. They're magnetic, and that whole friend group, even
yeah.
if each one of them has a different psychological diagnosis per se,
Hmm.
somehow it they're melded together, but
Yep.
it's just we're waiting for that volcano to explode. And
Yeah. And
we
again,
as the viewers
yep.
are sitting there with our goggles on,
Right.
just foaming at the mouth.
Right. We're so voyeuristic with this, right? Because we want to know what happens, right? Each of them has an abandonment wound somewhere in
Okay.
them, right? So Lucy, and I don't want to spoil it for all the listeners, but Lucy lost her father, right? Evan's parents kind of treat them with just like expectation and money, right? Wrigley loses somebody in his family in the middle of the show. Bree is adopted, right? Not adopted. She was abandoned by her birth mother,
Mhm.
right? And then lived in foster care. So not adopted, the
Okay.
antithesis of adopted, right?
Okay.
And Stephen came from a home where you will start to see the dysfunction that he came from, right? And that will explain a little bit of how he developed how he is, because he has been searching to be loved and accepted and not abused, and whether it was verbally or whether it was emotionally or whether it was physically or all of the above. So you see all the trauma there. And there's things like trauma bonding, and there's things that narcissists prey on very vulnerable people who are desiring love and connection and to have, especially when they've been abandoned. So when you go in with that as the template, you
Mhm.
start to see not everybody is going to connect to him like Lucy did. But when you don't feel good about yourself
Mhm.
and you have this hot guy, if that's what you think he is, right? This hot guy that you don't know in that moment, telling a freshman girl that she's so special and she's so hot and they're having this crazy chemistry. And I tell my patients this, right? But what I tell them is when our nervous system connects to somebody like that, it's usually because it feels familiar in some way, right? So having even if it's a longing for connection with somebody and somebody gives it to you, that nervous system reaction gets normalized, right? So if she grew up with parents or somebody grew up with parents who were neglectful or who gaslit them or what have you, right? That feels normal when you meet somebody. Even if it doesn't manifest in the same way, our nervous system remembers that. And trauma can do the same thing. It doesn't have to be the exact trauma, but we're used to having and losing, having and losing, having and losing. And if this person's giving and taking and giving and taking, our nervous system might respond that way. And it would feel very familiar. So that's how we can be attracted. But even Lucy has moments where she's like, I'm out, right? You put me in a terrible position. But then you see her engage with others and you start to see how sex is used as a way of connecting, dissociating, and dealing with the trauma of abandonment underneath and low self-worth. So oftentimes when we have people who don't feel good about themselves, when we have somebody that is feeding us something really special, really good, and they're on a pedestal, that's how we get into this web, and it starts that way. So it's really, I mean, for a show about college students, right? And I feel like that and what was the one on HBO that with the drugs and everybody
Euphoria.
Yes, Euphoria. Like there's been so many shows about that age group.
I know.
Right?
Well,
about the traumas and about just the real deep psychological stuff that goes on, that it's interesting, especially, you know, I'm sure for our listeners, it's interesting just from a voyeuristic perspective, for me, from a psychological perspective, but I'm glad they're at least making shows, again, coming full circle, they're making shows about this because then we can talk about it.
Yeah, and that, to your point, is what I was going to say, that I don't think, as we always say, there are no coincidences. It's not a coincidence that all of these shows, there really is an underlying message that it's so important that we're using, it's wrapped up as entertainment, but these are cautionary tales.
Sure.
And it worries me in the sense that, is this life imitating art or art imitating life, or again, the web of all of it, that it's just, we're on this loop, but the messaging behind it is important in a world that we're living in where our children and I would imagine our children's children at some point, like everyone is so they're easily swayed
they're
or
influenced
I guess
by exposure,
right.
right? But I do, and that is a concern of mine. Like, as great as it is that we can talk about it, the reason that I'm saying I'm glad we're talking about it is because then we can go to our kids and say, listen, just because you're seeing this intense relationship, right? What would you have done if you were in that situation and you had a Stephen in your life? Or why do you think that she keeps going back to him? What's attractive about that? When you don't have a model for that, right? But you're seeing it on TV and nobody's talking about what's happening, we start to think that, again, that's normal, right? That's like
do you think we're grown adults and we're talking about a show for entertainment purposes and then breaking it down from the real psyche behind it as a cautionary tale? Do you think the kids or the young adults in today's world are watching it and then doing what we're doing and recognizing how damaging these characters are? Because that's the piece that we want to flip the switch on.
Right.
How do we communicate that? We're not watching those shows with our children.
No, we're not watching it with our children. I'm sure they talk about it and they're like, oh, he's so hot, or, oh my God, could you imagine? But when you don't have a context around it and you don't have words to understand that this is not normal, right? So, and I don't like to use that word, but this is not what relationships look like. So our hope is when they go to college and they start taking abnormal psychology and they start taking, the power of persuasion and manipulation, or they start taking even even a social psychology class or, sociology class or whatever, or gender class, like whatever it is, you hope that they can then relate it. Like I'll give you an example. When I took abnormal psychology, it's called psychopathology in college, in graduate school. And we learned the whole diagnostic and statistical manual. So the DSM, which is the Bible that we use to diagnose people, right? What did we do? We would learn about it, and then we would go into our family and relate it to somebody that is either been in our family or somebody, right? So then we had a representation, and we could kind of add life to the diagnosis.
Right.
And that's what you hope our children will eventually do. They'll be like, oh, right, I remember watching this, and I felt badly that Lucy kept going back. I was kind of like cheering her on, like, come on, think better of yourself, think better of yourself, think better of yourself. So they have a context, but if it's left hanging, I do get nervous. I'm very nervous for this generation. You and I have spoken about this, like super, super nervous with all the things that are being thrown at them and all the things that have been normalized for them. And there's no discussion about what's not acceptable or what's not tolerable, right? And when it's thrown down your throat, and it's the same concept as like porn, like real porn, not the soft porn necessarily, but what happens is when kids get into porn at a young age and nobody's telling them that this is staged and this is inauthentic, right? They're going into their first relationships emulating porn, right? That's dangerous. That's dangerous because it can be violent. That's dangerous because it's very distant and detached. It's dangerous because no one's body flips over in that way without missing a beat. Like it just doesn't happen, right?
Right.
So, I mean, I have to add a little unpolishedness to it. So that's what kind of concerns me. And I guess not that I want this, but it's job security. But I don't want job security. I want us to be able to have a generation that doesn't emulate the things that they're seeing that are negative.
Every single one of those characters on Tell Me Lies, even the ones that seemingly more put together than the others, could use a session on your couch. Whether it's on whether it's on the corner of Audacity and advice or in real life. But it's not for the faint of heart. It does go deep, and it really kind of pulls at your strings relative to the realities of, as you would say, that DSM and the real diagnoses behind those characters. That's no joke at all.
Yeah, and the last thing that I would say to our listeners is if you do watch the show, right, or any of these shows, one of the things is try to identify in those characters how you would A, feel if this was your child, right? And B, like what you would do if it was, right? Because so often we don't know what our children are doing. We don't know how our children are feeling. And maybe just enough, the same way that we can see what not to do, we can start to highlight what some of the manifestations or the presenting ways that it can show itself. And maybe it would be enough for us to be like, oh, that feels familiar. That feels like, my friend's daughter was going through something like that. Maybe I should talk to my friends, my friend, and just ask her, like, are you sure that she's okay and that nothing's been going on with her? It's just an interesting little exercise, because I do think that this generation, the high schoolers, the college age students, are really, they're seeking something from us. And when we're not giving it to them, and I don't mean indulging them, I mean like they have a source. Like we used to have our friends, and we used to hope that somebody's parent did the right thing and that we were learning that information from one of them. But now there's a whole nother world that's influencing them, right? And I'm not so sure that world is presenting it accurately, and that's frightening.
Yeah. Besides that, Mrs. Lincoln,
I know, right?
got any other shows?
No, this is why I don't watch.
This
is why I don't watch anything, because then I have to obsess about it and talk about it. And, but all of them, I think, are important shows to watch. It gets us away from, the news, the colds, all of those fun things that are going on in our lives. And, And a lot of it is relatable. It takes you back to college life, right? It's just a different college life than I remember it being.
Absolutely. Well, with that being said, so we have, just as a recap here, right? We have Heated Rivalry
Mm-hmm.
on HBO Max.
Mhm.
We have Tell Me Lies
Mhm.
on Hulu.
Yep.
We
Best of show,
have
apparently.
Best in Show, Catherine
Yeah.
O'Hara. Shout
Mhm.
out to you. I guess on any of the streaming platforms, but I guess it probably was showcased on Netflix recently.
It was either Netflix or Hulu because those were the two.
Anyway,
Totally.
I'm confused now with all the shows, but I will tell you that hanging out with you for the last hour has definitely taken the chill out of the room. So I feel all warm and cozy and a little less unpolished, spending time with my favorite Dr. Boca.
Thank you.
And
I got to tell you that
yeah.
I like this cold because I didn't have a hot flash through the whole episode, even
It
with
was
my beanie on.
well, that's what I'm telling you. I guess maybe there is a hedge to having to bundle up a little bit.
Mhm.
So to the listeners out there, though, we hope wherever you are tuning in from, be it on where you're listening on any of the podcast platforms, or if you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe, of course, and like and comment. Let us know how you are staying warm in this cold winter air that we've been enjoying on all the coasts and north and south, east, west. Catch up on Heated Rivalry, catch up on Tell Me Lies, so that you can tell me and Dr. Boca something other than lies. Tell us how you're doing. You can always reach out to us via email, unpolishedtherapy@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Unpolished Therapy, and TikTok at Unpolished Therapy Podcast. I believe
Yes.
we're a little light over there, but we're trying to fluff that up a little bit. So we're working on it, but we need your help. So reach out, let us know how you guys are doing. Dr. Boca, am I missing anything before we wrap the sesh for the day?
I don't think so. Thank you so much for making my little cold front much warmer. And
Yes.
thank you to our listeners. And definitely subscribe on YouTube. That will help us significantly.
Yes, absolutely. If you need help with that, you can ask Dr. Boca, because that's
No.
above my pay grade. All right. Well, from the corner of Audacity and advice, I'm so happy we were able to ditch the couch and grab the mics. I am Rachel Silver-Cohen, again with the one and only Dr. Boca. Thank you, Dr. Boca, for hanging out with me today. I can't wait to see you next week when our wheels and yours get spun upside down. This has been another episode of Unpolished Therapy.
Great sesh, girls! Hey everyone, like what you heard? Then don't miss out on what comes next. Subscribe now and please give the girls a 5-star rating. Learn more at www.unpolishedtherapy.com. Find and like them on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We'll see you next week when Rachel Silver-Cohen and Dr. Boca ditch the couch, grab the mic, and break down all the wreckage.